Hello everyone, and today I'm going to show you how to install a Towbar to your first generation Audi Q7. To start, here's what I've bought for this project. A used original Towbar of a similar Q7, a generic 7-way bypass relay with a 7-pin plug and 8 Towbar bolts. We'll begin by starting the car and raising the air suspension to the highest level to make work easier. In the rear arch, there are 3 Torx bolts and a 4th one underneath the liner, as well as a 10mm plastic nut holding the liner. Now we're going to work our way along the upper edge of the bumper, gently pulling it by the edge, followed by a good tug of the lower part to undo the clips holding the bumper. Undo the 5 Torx bolts underneath. And this is the trickiest part of removing the bumper. 4 10mm nuts on 3-inch long threads, 2 on each side. Now, I've seen people use all sorts of tools, but I've bought this deep socket bit for €10 on Amazon and couldn't recommend it more for this job. Unfortunately, the last few threads have to be turned by hand, and that's where you have to be delicate, careful not to drop the nut. That's exactly what I mean. Gotta have to replace it with a generic 10mm nut. Once the bumper comes off, gently lay it on a soft surface such as a pillow or a cloth to prevent paint damage, and don't forget about the 2 wiring connectors. And here's the rear with the bumper off. It's a good time to inspect your car for any signs of previous damage to the rear. The tow bar will bolt in the crash bar's place. As you can see, the flanges align perfectly on both sides. Grab your 19mm socket for this one, and I'm going to use my impact drill. Unfortunately, the last bolt is well stuck, so I'm going to use an extension to get it moving. And same story on the other side as well. clean up the dirt in the area. And here is the reason why you cannot reuse the Towbar bolts. They're simply too short. It's always easier to get a mate to help you out with this one, but since I'm doing this project myself, get something like an adjustable jack stand to help you align the bolt holes. Get your bolts ready. Align the Towbar, and I'm going to hand screw a couple of bolts each side first. I'm leaving the bolts just a tad loose to align the Towbar on both sides. And with that, your Towbar is on the car. Well done. Take a break. You will need it for part 2. In my kit there was a brand new 7-pin socket and I thought I may as well swap it out. Besides, the cable is fresh and long. Get a 24mm socket and a wrench. It's well rusted, so spray some WD-40. Give it a good few bangs, and I'm using the extension again just for the good measure. And just like that, simple. Now the biggest question was how to run the wiring. As mentioned, my Q7 did not come with a towing module pre-wiring, as none of the panoramic roof cars did in the UK. I ended up spending a good few hours testing the wiring with a multimeter and drawing diagrams. I took time to drop this wiring diagram. Feel free to pause it. Alternatively, I'll also include a link of it in the description. Of course, please ensure you cross-check all of the wires before splicing into them. Unfortunately, due to complicated electronics, the only safe and electrically non-intrusive way I found was to tap into the wiring harness running across the boot, the convenience module connector, and one of the wires going to the bumper. With yet another diagram made, it was time to wire up the 7-way bypass relay, and before splicing into a wire, tested with a multimeter to ensure it's definitely the right one. For our first location, the boot harness, we'll splice into the 3 wires. Just be careful, the required thinner red wire with yellow stripes is easy to mistake for the thicker yellow wire with red stripes. Wrap a bit of tape around the wires to keep them secure. Next, I'm drilling an 8mm hole to feed the cable from the socket to the interior. Apply some metal paint to prevent rust, and also file away any sharp edges. I'm also drilling another smaller hole for the single fog light wire feeding off the bumper wiring harness. Now I'm going to splice into the 2 wires from the convenience module. I'm going to warn you right now that the room for work here is super scarce. As for the ground connection, I'm going to use one of these nuts conveniently located nearby. And lastly, the power supply. I'm choosing to run it from this 12-volt power socket. First, because it's nearby, and also because it's fed through a 25 amp fuse should, God forbid, anything go wrong. Start by feeding the positive wire into the relay, followed by all of the output wires into the Towbar socket. And just like that, we're all done. Time to tidy everything up and secure any wires and plug back any modules and connectors. You will also have to remove the Towbar hatch from the rear bumper, but my screws are so rusted, both of the screw heads just completely stripped, so I ended up drilling them out. Carefully fit the rear bumper by the 4 long threads, screw in those 10mm bolts, and work your way around the perimeter, securing those clips. Finally, replace the Torx screws, the plastic nuts and the mud flaps. And with that, this project is complete. As always, if you have any questions, write them down below. This was Adam G. See you next time.